So the points that we've established through the sessions, goal of teaching is learning by students. We should never lose sight of this. Course objectives should be in terms of learning outcomes for students. We should design the course to support the learning outcomes, all the teaching and learning activities in the class and outside the class. We should have assessments to support learning and evaluate achievement of the learning outcomes. We should make lectures active learning experiences. And finally, we should motivate students, show them value of learning goals, set achievable expectations, and provide them a supportive environment. All right, this is the end of this thing. Let's just spend 2-3 minutes on a little discussion. Since last topic we discussed was motivation, let's now take some inputs. For the course you teach, give one action you can practically take to improve student motivation. Okay, one thing all of us can do, the first lecture in the course, make sure the learning outcomes are clear, make sure they understand how learning outcomes connect with the larger program, show them the value of learning outcomes in profession, in all kinds of values that are there. At the very least, we should do that. Some marks for class participation, okay, so to encourage participation, but that's sort of more of a force. What can we do to improve motivation? Course application with examples. Improve support, of course, these are the 3 things you have to do. Show them value, show them that they can, assure them that they can do it, and provide support. I think at the very least, as I said, we should make sure that the first lecture is not just about what this course is, how we will grade and all that kind of stuff which we talk about. We must talk about, tell them what they're going to learn in the course, the learning outcomes. Why are those important? How do they connect to the overall BTech program? Based on that, they can learn so many other things, for example. How will it help them build skills? How, in the path to a professional career, that's an important step that they have to take. So they understand value for this, right? So I think that's at the very least, all of us should do in our first lectures. First lectures, very carefully designed, not only to explain what the course is about, but to help them motivate, which also is helping them explain about the course, because you're explaining them learning outcomes, how they connect with the larger program, with profession, and so on. All right.
Yeah, Pankaj. So thanks again, for the informative session. So I have a couple of questions on the assessment itself, Pankaj.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand. Nowadays there are many institutions which are trying providing the grades only on the basis of the formative assessment. So, for example, recently IIIT Allahabad, I came to know that they have completely abolished the summative assessment, and in several other institutions, not to name one. And they are just relying on the formative assessment, saying, like all these assessments should be like very, very low marks and informal throughout the course, and the grade should be awarded on the basis of that. So what are your thoughts on that, and why we cannot just do this informative assessments?
Okay, but there is, so essentially they're using instruments which are, I think as I understand, they're using instruments which are low weight throughout. But for example, formative, you can also do just raise a question and discuss and zero weight. But if you're doing a lot of small instruments and using the assessment for that, if you see summative assessment, which is what we are giving the grade on, right? When we say in the course your grade is something, we are saying about the achievement of the learning outcomes, right? If by these small assessments scattered throughout, you can assure that your summative must be valid, right? Your final grade that you give, it must be valid. There is a validity. If you can assure that it does represent the attainment of learning outcomes, I see no problem in that. Essentially, you have summative assessment spread out, though I would find it very hard because the small formative assessments are typically on a very small slice. You give them something and then you give them feedback, etc. But our learning outcomes are not on slices. They are of the overall goal. So how will you assess the overall goal? I'm not clear on that, but maybe they have found something.
Yeah, so, I think you may be knowing also, this has become a kind of trend also, especially by focusing on the mental health of the students. And then many are saying that, when you do the summative assessment, it puts a lot of effort.
No, that's a very different issue. It's a different discussion. We didn't have that summative assessments cause stress, etc. That's a different issue. I'm just talking assessment. We may take a conscious choice that we will dilute our summative assessment for greater good of some other kind.
So that there is one, and then just one more question.
But in my mind, while they may, we ought to be honest and say, in the interest of something else, we are diluting summative assessment. I'm okay with that. That's a value call after all. Education, the course is not the only thing in life, right?
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Yeah. So, but we should be clear. We should not hide behind. No, we are doing all very good assessment, but it is that. That is not right. Right? If it is not doing summative assessment of the quality that we valid, we should be able to say that and say, but hey, look, still we need to do.
And maybe, as you said, right, research problem as well, saying that how they stand out against each other. So one more question, Pankaj. So, you mentioned that, especially while talking about the summative assessment, that this should be consistent with what has been taught. And I think this was one of the points that you mentioned in the previous.
Always fairness and all that, right?
Yeah. So, but what I wanted to ask this thing, so for example, the formative assessment, since we are doing it in a bit informal way, and they are not high stakes, and they are not, let's say, graded in a very typical control settings. So can they be a bit inconsistent? So for example, I can even allow them to explore some tangential topics, which can maybe help them add knowledge, or which can add to the learning goal, which may not be taught in the class due to the lack of the time and so many different things.
So I'm not too sure what you're saying. You're saying that you can ask them to learn something which you you can give them some reading, and I'm not.
So for example, when we talk about, you said you made a point, right, during the summative assessment.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So the question is this. So for example, summative assessment, let's say during the exam, mid-sem exam or the end-sem exam, I need to ask them only what has been taught. This is what essentially.
And teaching is taken in a very broad sense. You could have given, hey, look, go and read this and we'll discuss it in class. That's considered teaching. Go and read look at this MOOC lecture. We'll discuss it in class. It's considered teaching. So teaching is not just lecturing by you, right? So keeping teaching very broad. But something you not discuss at all, you didn't give a reading assignment, you didn't do it, then putting a question on that in the exam doesn't sound fair to me.
Yeah. So okay. So I think that makes a bit clear. So you're right. So teaching is more than the lecturing and everything. So I think
right.
that covered.
And in fact, I gave an example that when you're doing active learning, some time is going there, even though your learning is more solid, but you are eating up some time, and over the semester it may be worth, let's say, a lecture. So you can take some easy topic and assign it as a reading with some 10 minutes of this thing, and then have a little discussion and a little quiz, and the students learn, right? Because you've given them an assignment, you told them what it is about, what is expected of them, and so that's, or you have them view a lecture online, etc., right? So various ways for teaching.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks a lot.